Hi everybody. Don't worry, this channel is not turning into a channel all about audio. I talk about all different things here, and I'm going to get back to some different subjects soon. I've got one or two more audio videos to get through before we get there, but this right here, this is my Pioneer PDM-900 from 1988. It was a top-of-the-line CD player in its day, Pioneer Reference Series CD player that became the Elite line just 1 or 2 years after this. I really wanted one of these at the time, could not afford it. These were quite expensive back in the day. They're still a little expensive now, but I saw one online one night a few weeks ago, and yeah, maybe I'd had 1 or 2 glasses of wine, but decided to pull the trigger on it. It was listed as working. There was a video showing it working. Of course, when I got it, it was not working. So today, we're going to repair it. Trust me on this one. This is going to be a quick repair. I already know because I've already done it. Now, just so you're not disappointed later, I had suspected that this had the same problem that almost all of these have, and I wanted to show you how to fix that. And that was the laser lens falling out, literally falling out from the mechanism. That happens to all of these because the laser is upside down. Opened it up, looked at it, you'll see, and the laser lens is still there. But hopefully you can still use this if you want some guidance on what to do if you're not getting any recognition of discs from one of these players at all. And that includes all Pioneer 6-disc changers. That's what this problem is unique to. Those changers like this, and this was the best one they made, but they're all the same basically internally. They have the laser mechanism hung upside down. You put the disc in with the label side down, the data side up, and it reads from above. So over time, that glue just lets go, the lens falls out. Was not the case with this one. This one had something else, but again, quick repair. For once, you're going to get a quick video. I still think it's going to be interesting. I'm going to compare and contrast this CD player with another model, 6-disc changer, same basic type of CD player, but you'll see what makes this one, I mean, you may or may not see what makes this one a better player and why I wanted it so bad. First, let's just go over some of the features in the front. So what is it that I like about these things so much? Well, it's not really the sound. I mean, to me, all CD players sound very similar, even the high-end ones. And I doubt most people would be able to pick out the difference between CD players based on sound, but just look at this thing. This, to me, I mean, mine is not in perfect condition, but to me, this is what a CD player should look like. It's just beautiful. You got the wood side panels, of course. You got to have the wood side panels. And these have the glossy veneer. It's in that era of Pioneer high-end stuff where they had this piano black finish on the front. That carried through to their early Elite stuff. And to clarify this, because I was a little confused about this myself, and I've seen other people who are also a little confused about this, but this actually was the start of the Elite line. Pioneer's Elite components were originally not labeled Elite. They were called Elite in the marketing materials, and you can see that here, but nowhere on these products does it actually say the word Elite. It says Reference. And if you look here, also the PDM-900 is specifically listed in this Stereo Review Buyer's Guide as an Elite model. So it's labeled on the component itself the exact same way as other Elite products, and it's listed as an Elite product in Stereo Review. So yeah, this is an Elite CD player. It's just they didn't put that word on their early Elite products. You've got tons of buttons, all kinds of buttons. I love buttons. You've got knobs. You've got actual switches here. This is not just a momentary switch. This is a real switch. You've got this beautiful display. It's probably one of the bigger displays, and it's like a square display that I've seen on a Pioneer player like this. And I just love the 6-disc magazines as well, and this one came with both 6-disc and single disc. So we've got the magazine mechanism there, and you can obviously change that out. The idea with these was that you would have multiples of these. They came in sleeves, so you could store them. You could actually store them on a shelf as kind of a, like a bookshelf kind of thing. And you could store them by genre or alphabetically, however you wanted to do it. And then you would just pop one of these in when you wanted, and you'd have your 6 discs. And you could have as many of those as you want. Most people, I think, only ever kept the one that came with the thing. But, if you had, especially if you had a car changer, you could have multiples of these. And then eventually they came out with players that had more than one slot. So you could have like 18 discs in 3 separate magazines all at once. To add to this, yes, I realize there were 100 and even 200 disc changers at one point. I had one of those at the time. I have a picture of it somewhere. I don't know where it is, but around 2000, 2001, I had one. Those are a little different concept. With those, you're meant to store your discs inside the player and never touch them again. It was kind of getting away from this concept of actually inserting discs anytime you wanted to play a disc. That is what appeals to me about the 6 disc changers. There's kind of an extra level of tactility there. That's what attracts me to physical media at this point. That doesn't really exist anymore once you get up to the 100 or 200 disc library changers. And I also, of course, know that 5 disc carousel CD changers existed. Pioneer did the 6 disc magazine thing, and a few other brands went along with them on that, and then others did the carousel changers, and they were kind of 2 competing formats, kind of doing the same thing. I just always liked the magazine changers better. The carousel changers just always seemed like kind of a weird compromise to me, and they were not very reliable with those big giant trays that everything was spinning around in all the time. The magazine style players ended up actually being more reliable in the long run, and also the carousel changers, they're pretty big. They're always big because they got to have 5 discs next to each other. So again, yeah, I just wasn't a big fan of them. I like the magazine style changers better. Anyway, now back to the video. But I do also appreciate the single disc. So you can use this as a single disc player, and it works just like any other single disc player. You can just eject and put a CD in there, unlike with the 6 disc where you have to take the tray out and load it up, and it just acts like a single disc player when it's got the single disc magazine in there. So you've got all your standard CD controls over here: play, pause, stop. These light up, which is great. I love that. You've got your direct track access. You've got your memory functions. Level control. You can actually control the analog level output of this. CDs often were known to be, well, they were mastered hotter than other formats. So especially if your receiver was kind of a traditional receiver and wasn't doing any kind of balancing on its own, when you switched over to CD, your music was going to probably play a lot louder. So yeah, I guess in those days, being able to just reduce the level and just keep it there and have your CD player kind of match your record player or whatever might have been a good thing. Got your direct disc access here. You've got repeat time fade edit. That's a weird one. I don't think I would use that, but you can have it just fade out after a certain time. You've got other fader controls up here: manual fader, manual search, track search, and then a headphone jack with its own line output. And here's your remote sensor there. And this is the remote. I love this remote. It's got a nice screen of its own. It'll tell you what, it's a little hard to read. I don't know if it's backlit. Let's see if I can find a backlight. No, I don't think it is. I don't think it's backlit. I don't see anything, any kind of backlight key or anything on here. But duplicates all the functions of the front, and I don't think it has extra ones. I'm pretty sure you know, that's what I love about CD players like this, is all the functions are accessible on the front. Around here on the back, we've got your standard line out RCA jacks. We've got your optical out. Mine nicely still has the cover on it. Coaxial digital output. Got a switch. You can turn on or off your digital output. It's not done via software, as is on many newer players. And then we've got this DIN connector for subcode out. And I wondered what that was. The manual does list it. It's got it, I don't know if you can see that, but right here, I'll read you what it says. Subcode out terminal. This terminal will be used to output subcodes, parentheses, data recordable on compact discs together with audio signals, in parentheses, in future audio applications. So I don't know if that was ever used for anything. Let me know if you know in the comments. But it might have just been one of those like future expansion things that sat and did nothing. All terminals with connections are gold-plated, of course, except for the optical terminal, which wouldn't really make sense, but you never know. Yeah, and then you've got your standard labeling here, PDM-900, made in Japan. Actually, my PDM-430 was still made in Japan as well. I don't know when or if they ever started making Pioneer stuff elsewhere. I'm sure that it's made somewhere else now. And mine, you can't see it. I'll move the camera a little. Or I'll move the CD player a little. But I've got a manufacture date, actually, on mine of June 1988. My PDM-430 does not have that, so I always like to have that. So I guess I should clarify what I'm actually trying to fix, and that's that this player just isn't reading discs at all. It had taken kind of a wild ride in shipping, so I assumed the laser lens had been hanging by a thread and just got knocked loose, which is an extremely common problem with these and renders them basically inoperable. But it's a 5-minute fix with a screwdriver and some super glue. You can sometimes find some great deals on 6-disc changers for that reason, though not usually this one. I wouldn't hesitate to buy one for cheap that was listed with that specific problem though, and you can usually find them pretty easily. This player actually has separate screws under the wood panels to hold the case on, unlike my Sony tape deck or my old JVC XLZ 555 CD player, and I think it's in case you did want to remove them permanently. A lot of people did do that towards the end of this era, which is something I never understood. They're not hurting anything. At worst, they're just there, but I really do think they add to the aesthetic, and I always did. It's not just a retro thing. My roommate, who I sold my old JVC player to, took the panels off, and that thing was never meant to be without them. It looked weird, with the CD drawer all the way up against the side of the player, and it did not have separate screws for the case, meaning if you tried to screw those long screws back in without the panels, they would go right through the circuit boards inside. Well, guess what? That's exactly what my roommate did. I wish I never sold him that thing. There are just 4 screws holding the laser mechanism in place, plus a ribbon cable that it's probably a good idea to remove before trying to flip the laser over. I just wanted to check whether my suspicions were correct before setting it down, though, and here you see me surprised that the lens is still there and seemingly solid. I decided to go ahead and clean it while I was in there, though. It shouldn't be that dirty since it's hanging upside down, and it wasn't, but whatever. I also thought I should see if the mechanism would move at all manually. It's possible that this might have jogged it loose from being stuck. I don't know. Well, believe it or not, it's working. I have never actually had just cleaning the laser lens do anything, but maybe that's all this thing needed. I don't know. Or maybe it was that little nudge that I gave to the assembly when I put it in there. Maybe it just got stuck in one spot, but I've tried it with both the 6-disc magazine and the single. Here's the 6-disc, and I'll let it run through. I tried this before. I'll let it run through all the discs until it finds the disc that's in there. It's playing. Track 1. track 2. Just go to track 8. Playing. I realized that I don't know if I actually ever took footage of this when it was not working, which is kind of dumb, but yeah, take my word for it, it was not working when I got it, but now it is. Here's the single caddy if you wanted to use it like a single CD player, as many people did with these higher end models. And yeah, it still ejects kind of violently, but basically works like a single CD player, except you still do have to put the CD in label side down. And the buttons on the unit work too. Yep. Let's just take a quick look inside this thing while we're at it. So I've got my older to me, PDM-430 here on the left, and my PDM-900 here on the right. I thought it'd be fun to just kind of look at the insides and compare them and just see what's in here, what makes this one, you know, a better CD player. Supposedly, you know, there was a lot of marketing back in those days, just like there is today. So let's just take a quick look, I think, just go through each and see why one is at least considered better than the other. All right, well, I'll start with the PDM-900 here. And, you know, I don't know everything about CD players. I used to sell them for a living, but, you know, when you sell stuff, you kind of know just enough to convince people of things. You don't necessarily know all the ins and outs. If you want a good kind of primer on what everything does in a CD player, go watch Technology Connections. He did a really good series on CD players where he kind of goes through every single thing that's in any CD player and what they do and how a CD player can actually reproduce, you know, a pure analog waveform and the original analog waveform from a digital source. So go check that out. It's really good. But I'll just run through some stuff here. Obviously, you know, some of the things that they did on the Reference and later the Elite series is kind of just for show. I mean, it's got this kind of copper colored case here. Even the screws are copper colored. Okay, as a guitar player, I actually do get this. I shielded my Japanese Fender Jazzmaster with copper tape after changing the pickups from stock to something hotter. Here are my two American Jazzmasters with their brass shielding, with aluminum on the pickguards. Guitar players have a lot of weird audiophile-like biases, but there is actually some science to copper or brass being superior to aluminum for shielding. So why aren't all audio components copper or copper-plated? Because it's expensive. Now, do copper-plated screws do anything? I'm sure that's just a visual detail to match the rest of the case. Some of the things are kind of a mix of show and functionality. These cables, you know, later these would all be ribbon cables. They're real wires, just bundled wires here. Even some of the ribbon cables themselves are kind of better than what you're going to see later. And then as far as the chips go, I mean, we've got a couple of Sony chips here. I believe one of these is like a regulator chip and the other one is a signal processor. This big chip up here, this is a Pioneer chip. This is the main IC. It's the main processor for the board. Kind of over here is where I guess the sonic magic happens, if you want to call it that. We've got two DACs here. I mentioned that, I think, before. Two DACs. They are the PCM 56P, the J variant. And if you look that up, I mean, I looked it up. There's different grades of this DAC. The highest one, I guess, is K. This is the second from the highest, so it's not the highest, but it's better than what would be in like just a standard mid-range CD player. just as importantly as the DACs, and again, there are two of them, we've got a filter chip, the Yamaha 3414, which was pretty well regarded at the time. And then we've got two op-amp chips, which are also going to affect the sound at least a bit. And these are the 5532DD op-amp chips. A couple other chips here. This is like an SRAM. I think this is like a CMOS chip. And I'm not totally sure what this chip does. This was listed as the filter chip on one site that I found, except it was listed wrong. It was listed as the PD0036. This is the PD0026A, but this is not a filter chip. I'm not completely sure what it is. And then there's another Toshiba chip down here that I'm not totally sure. But yeah, I mean, this is all like, this would have been like this little like DA conversion setup here at the time would have been considered like close to the best you could get. Maybe not totally the best you could get, but pretty far up there. So that's definitely, you know, a point in this thing's favor. Nowadays, I mean, you know, stuff has improved. Like you can get really good DACs now for a very cheap price. The DAC in my little Bluetooth receiver that I bought for $90 or whatever, I think it was even less than that just a little while ago, is probably as good as all of that stuff put together. But anyway, let's move on to the 430. Well, moving on to the PDM 430, it's pretty clear that things were pretty simplified. I mean, the 430 was, again, a little later, further down the line. Actually, it was like the second from the bottom. So it was going to be simplified anyway. It was probably a little simplified just because of the time that went by as well. The mechanism is a little different. It's not hugely different. Like I actually expected it to be more different, but they have replaced a few metal parts with plastic. The motors are different. The laser assembly is definitely different. So it's got a different laser. I don't know which is more reliable. It kind of seems like the 900 is a little more reliable because the lens was still in there, and usually the lens on these has fallen out long ago. These are almost always completely broken, and all you have to do is replace that lens. That's what I was thinking I was going to need to do today with the 900. But yeah, I did need to do it with this, but this one still doesn't work 100%. It skips on CDs. It shouldn't skip on, so I think the laser is just getting weak, and that happens. I hear it happening less on the reference and elite models. But anyway, so that's the assembly. Over here, I mean, this is much smaller board. Everything is kind of consolidated. The transformer is actually on the board, whereas it's kind of off to the side on the 900. And then we've still got the two Sony chips. They're different chips, but they're still the same. They're in the same place. They do the same thing. Same with this Pioneer chip. Again, it's an updated chip, but that's the main IC. I don't know if there's like a dedicated CMOS chip on here, but we've got two DACs again, and I think maybe one of these is the DAC and one's the filter, or maybe they're both DACs and they have a built-in filter. I'm not sure. After a little more internet searching, the Sanyo chip here is the DAC. It's an 18-bit DAC, one single DAC for both channels. The NPC chip is the digital filter. It's an 8 times oversampling filter. If you want to compare that to the PDM-900, that has two 16-bit DACs, one for each channel, and also a Yamaha 8 times oversampling digital filter. So which one is technically better? I'm not sure. It's hard to find like a direct comparison of these things online. I haven't found one. But, you know, time did march forward pretty quickly and technology was moving. So it is possible actually that what's in the PDM 430 here is actually better than what's in the PDM 900. Again, I doubt anyone's going to hear the difference though. I should also mention that the PDM 430 has no digital output at all. So if you don't like the DAC that's in the PDM 430, you're kind of stuck with it. These are now, we got a Sanyo LC78820. And then we've got an NPC SM5840 BP. And then the op amps, let's see. RC4558DD. Yeah, so different op-amp chips. You know, it always sounds fine to me. I mean, every CD player pretty much sounds fine to me. And I doubt most people are going to hear a difference between any of them. But these are just, from what I can tell in my, 5 minutes of Google searching, these are just kind of more generic, more mass market kind of components. So, yeah, and just the construction and everything. I mean, we've just got one big ribbon, like thin, fragile ribbon cable here. Another one. This is the same ribbon cable. Well, it's not the same though. It's in the same spot as on the other model, but it's just flimsier. Like you can just feel it. And yeah, like it's just a simplified board. It's smaller. There's a lot more empty air in the case, even though the case itself is also a little smaller. So, these are not my hairs that are in here. I don't think. Maybe they are. But yeah, that's pretty much it. It's just interesting. And to me, I mean, the PDM-900, like it's the insides of it are as beautiful as the outside. The 430, it's just kind of there, and that's fine. That's kind of how it was marketed and what it was intended as. It's just a basic 6-disc CD changer, whereas the 900 intended for people with more discriminating tastes, I guess. Here's what Pioneer had to say about what makes this a high-end CD player. Multiplay CD player designed for high-quality sound with 8FS digital filter, independent left-right twin linear envelope DA converter system, Class A operation FET buffer amplifier, and AccuFocus system. So the convenience of CD magazines is combined with a design for high-quality sound via the non-resonance concept, whatever that is. 8 times oversampling digital filter, glitchless twin DA converter system with independent left and right. That's the 2 DACs that you saw in there. Class A operation FET buffer amplifier, 4-circuit independent power supply. Yeah, it does have a pretty chunky power supply in there. AccuFocus system, that again has to do with the laser, and maybe that's why it still works. And gold-plated output terminals. This was a big deal at the time. I guess it still kind of is. People like gold-plated stuff. It doesn't oxidize, so you're supposed to get better connections over the long term. So yeah, I guess it makes sense. And it's got all these convenience features. Easy listening play through the one-shot transmission remote control unit, featuring a large capacity title input function. So you can actually input the title. You can program up to 10 magazines for 256 steps, and it'll remember that. And when an 8-character title is entered, the title will be displayed when the program is called up. So that's kind of neat, I guess. Let's see. You've got fade editing, one-touch fade, stuff like that. I would never use that. But digital out terminal, optical and coax. Multifunction fluorescent display. I love the display on these. I love all Pioneer amber displays, but this one is particularly good. Let's see. Output level. Displays output level, which is bizarre. But again, this was like during the transition from analog to digital, so people would have probably been crazy about that. Headphone jack with volume control. High performance pickup. Ensures high fidelity playback. It's a laser. A single disc magazine is also provided to convert the unit into a single disc player as well. And people are confused about this sometimes. These came with both. I see people selling these with only one or the other sometimes, and I see people talking online about how, I found the single disc version of this player. No, you just found the player with a single disc magazine in it. So yeah, it came with both. It should come with both. Mine did come with both. So I guess kudos to the original owner for keeping them both. Often you just see these with whatever the last magazine was that was inside them at the time. Well, I hope you enjoyed that simple but at least successful repair attempt on this Pioneer PDM-900, along with the comparison between it and my PDM-430. I hope you got something out of it, whether it was knowledge, enjoyment, whatever. Anyway, I will see you guys next time.